In this video, I'm going to show a brief example of how you can add ghost replay logic to your own creation. To locate the element, simply go to Dream Shaping and search for ghost replay logic. You may have to put the element filter on to make it show up, but it shouldn't be too difficult to find. Now I'm going to give a brief overview of what it entails in this before adding it to a scene. Before adding it to your scene, you should be aware of the element's thermometer cost. So if you go to gameplay memory and more details, you can see the wires and thing cost. So for your scene, just make sure you've got enough space left over before adding it in. On the main microchip itself, there's actually 3 sections. 2 gadgets to go on the player's vehicle, 1 microchip to go on the ghost vehicle, and then the brains of the logic. There's not a lot you need to know about how it works, but you should take note of this keyframe because we'll be using that in the near future when setting up. On this microchip there's also a few gadgets you need to be aware of. There's a tag, there's a follower, and there's 3 lookout rotators. Each of them will need to be adjusted when we're adding them to the scene. The middle microchip also has a few inputs and outputs that need to be configured. 2 of the inputs are compulsory, 1 is optional, and the output is also optional, but I'll show you how to set them up shortly. Now I'm going to show an example racetrack that I made earlier and integrate this logic into it. So I'll just head out into my creations. This is what I made earlier. One thing to note, this is using the Super GP kit. I've already released a ghost element for the Super GP, so if you're using Super GP, I'd recommend using this element instead. So Super GP, Ghost Replay Time Trial Modes, Starting Grid, and that's just ready to set up and will work with the ghost automatically. For a new creation, I'll just give an overview of what setting up the ghost logic entails now. So while in edit mode for your creation, go to search, and then you should be able to search for ghost replay logic, and it'll show up hopefully. All you can do now, just drop it into the scene. We can leave that for the moment because the first thing I'm going to do is set up the actual ghost car itself. So what I want to do is make a ghost car of this vehicle. To create a ghost car, start by taking a clone of the original vehicle. So hold L1, press R2 and drag it over to the sides. Now I want to basically delete any of the logic on, because we won't need that for the ghost. So you can delete all that stuff on it, any microchips. There's also, if you go to X-ray mode, any cameras or any other gadgets, because they won't be being used as part of the ghost. That'll probably be okay for now. Just also check anything else attached. If I go to preview and visibility, so you see there's a sculpt here that I can get rid of this sculpt, and there's a few logic sculpts which came as part of this original car logic, so will be this one as well. Okay, and then that's a couple more up here as well. Get rid of these. You have to scope into the right level sometimes to delete things. To create a ghost, I found a good way of doing it is the convert to painting methods. So obviously it doesn't look great because I know there's a few different sculpts in this actual creation, but with a more simple car it'll be more straightforward. And you can also have the option of doing individually, so if you can convert to painting and then you can have more detail in the painted parts. But I'm just going to give as a brief example, just convert the whole thing, even though it won't look as good as it could be. It's still, you'll get a rough idea of what the ghost will look like. Now I'm going to add the logic to the ghost that I brought in on the microchip earlier. So I open my ghost replay logic. I take this pink microchip, so don't copy it, just move it over so you've got the wire still attached, and then if you move out the camera you can actually move a little bit faster, but just make sure, get over to the ghost. and then when you're nearby, hold L1, and then while this is hovering over it, release R2, and then the microchip will now be attached to the ghost. You can see if you move the ghost around, you'll see the microchip move with it. Inside the microchip there's a few things to configure. So we just put this structure, actually just a quickly quality of life, I'll make this chip stay upright. So there's this ghost position and this follower, which are quite important to configure. If I go to grid mode, this will help things out a little bit. So what we want to do is put this ghost position in an obvious place that we can match other things to. So if I hold L1 and triangle, set the grid origin on the ghost car, and then I take this widget, press triangle, and then I want to be roughly in the middle. It doesn't really matter where it is as long as we know and we can match up other logic to it when we're setting up more stuff. There's a few more things to note. On the tag, it needs to be facing the right way. So see, we've got Y, X and Z. What we need to do is rotate this widget. So if I hold L2 in the center and then I push the left stick right, it will rotate. So what we want is Y up, X left, Z forwards. Okay, and now while this gadget is still open, I want to open up this other follower, with L1 square, and then I need to find the actual widget for the follower, which isn't always straightforward, but it's in the scene somewhere. If we look up here, that's where the widget is. So I'm going to align it to the grid, so I know where that is now. I'm also going to open both up so I can see where this widget is in relation to the tag. So I need to move this widget onto the car, and it needs to be in exactly the same place as the tag. So there, and then I think one more space to the right. If I can go all of it, it's not always straightforward. Okay, so now you can see that both the tag and the follower are in the same place. On the same microchip, there's 3 more gadgets that need to be configured. There's these lookout rotators. So what I'll just do, I'll press X, because we don't need to open up fully. So these need to be facing a certain direction. So if I say this, it says left, so I say right. Okay, that's facing left. If it wasn't facing left, what you do is put your cursor on the end, hold R2, and then just move it. As long as you're in grid mode, it will stay to right angles, which is what we need. Next one is up, so we check, that's fine. And then the last one is forwards, which is facing forwards. There's no guarantee it will be correct when you first put it on, so you always need to check that it's facing the right way. But when you've got these 5 gadgets set up, you can now close this microchip and you won't need to touch it again. There is one more thing to configure for the ghost car, which is its visibility. By default, it should be set to invisible. So what I recommend doing is opening up, if it's just one, so there might be 2 ways you can do it. It may be part of a group, or it may be part of just painting itself. If it's a group, you would open it up and then just disable visibility via this tweak menu. If it's the whole thing's a painting, you go on the main paint menu and you look down the menu to opacity and just drag it all the way to the left. Okay, and then there's also the second part of this logic. We need to configure how the visibility turns back on, which I would do via this main microchip, which we brought in earlier. So we look on the microchip, you see in the middle there's this keyframe, and it says ghost and minimap.visible. So what we do, hold L1, press X, and then go to opacity. I will just drag it to 10%, which is a good opacity for paint. Okay, for the player car itself, you don't have as much to configure, but there are a couple of gadgets. So what I'll do is select both of these at the same time, take them over, and the best thing to do is just put it on the microchip for the player logic. So this is the logic that's related to this car. Also, I'll turn off I'll turn back on preview invisibility now because I think we don't need to see the invisible sculpt anymore. And so I've just added these two gadgets on. We don't need to adjust movement sensor at all, but we do need to adjust the tag. And the important thing with the tag is the position has to be the same as the tag on the ghost car, but on the original car. So what I'll do, I'll set the grid origin, I'll hold L1, press triangle, grid is now relative to this car. I'll grab the tag widget and then I'll press triangle to line to grid. We'll move it to the same position. As you can see, it's roughly in the center above this hump section and about one space above, which is now same on this car. And then what we do with the widget, we hold L2 while in center and then just rotate it so Z is facing forward, X is left, Y is up, and then that should be positioned perfectly for the position data to be recorded. Now I'm going to return to setting up the main microchip and then we can test the creation. So what we can do is move this off the imported microchip. We shouldn't need this anymore. There are a few text boxes on here which give you a little bit more detail. By all means, I recommend you read them when you're setting up, but we no longer need this extra microchip, so we can delete that. And now what we can do is we can look at these inputs. So it's a little bit easier if I can read the nodes from this area. So start lap / cross finish line, pulse signal, and player lap time. So these are the two important ones that need to be set up. The other ones are optional. This hard ghost, it's kind of self-explanatory, but you would generally do that if the player restarts the race. You would want to use that in that instance. But most of the time, if you're just doing laps without restarting, you wouldn't need to use that input. So start lap cross finish line. What I can do is have a look at some of the variables within this creation. So we want a pulse signal, and a good way to get a pulse signal for this kind of thing is out of the increased aspect of variable. So what we can do is player current lap. So every time the player lap goes up, it means that the car has crossed the finish line, and then every time that happens, this will pulse and increase. So this is the perfect input to use for this value. So we just wire that up to this, and then next one is player lap time. So we just find out whichever, again your logic will be different, but just something that's keeping count of how long the player's been going, and it should reset every single time player crosses the line as well. So there is one on here, I think lap time, self-explanatory. All I do is connect it as so. So again, this one I'm not going to set up now because this creation isn't set up to restart by default. But you probably, if you bug test or if you do tests during your creation, you'll kind of understand times that the ghost should be made invisible, and then it's those times you need to set the logic up to make it invisible for you via this input. For the output, I'll just close this for now. The output is going to show the ghost best lap time. So what I'll just do for that is take a couple of gadgets. I'm going to take a number displayer. I'm going to set the number displayer to time. I'm going to display milliseconds, and I'll just wire that into here. And what I can maybe do is move it over here because it's a better place for it. And I'll also take a text box while I'm here and then just name that ghost lap time. Lap time. And then make sure it's in similar location to that so we know what it's for. And I think we're ready to play. So I'll go to play mode. We go to race. Obviously those text boxes are temporary. You would make them look a bit prettier if you do it yourself. But anyway, I'm just going to do a full lap, and then hopefully the ghost will appear when I've finished the lap. We shall see now. And there it is. Simple as that, really. Obviously there's more ways you can tweak and adjust the logic yourself, but generally I don't think it's too difficult to set up if you've got like a lap based racing creation. Also another way to check, rewind. I'm just going to do just a very slow lap, just so we can see the ghost copying the actions. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to turn around, and then we should be able to see the ghost do that on the next lap, and then that's even more of a confirmation to show that the ghost is copying what the lap did. So we slow down, stop, and you see the ghost has stopped itself, and it's going to do the loop and then go back around to finish the lap. Of course there's quite a few things that could go wrong when setting up, but if you're struggling, then I'd recommend just post comments on this video, or post comments on the creation Inside Dreams as well. So if you need any extra help, either comment this creation or ask me personally. You can comment on my comments, or you can comment on my PSN account. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.